All right, we have a little bit of data cleaning we need to take care of on our minimum wage data. So in our joined data frame, you may have noticed that we had some NAN rows for minimum wage. Now remember from week 4 that we can fill in missing records using the ffill function? Let's give forward fill a try. We'll come back here into Python, and the data frame that we're going to use is the one that's called joined. We're going to use our left-hand join data frame. And we'll say joined is equal to joined.ffill. And if we look at joined.ffill, did our forward fill work properly? Well, at first glance, it looks like everything went off without a hitch. But we have an issue with New Brunswick and Quebec. Notice how the $11 minimum wage for 2017 New Brunswick got forward filled to 2009 Quebec. So forward fill is not aware of how our data has been indexed. It's going to blindly copy the value from the previous row into the current row if the current row is NAN and the previous row has a value. Now, if only we could forward fill based on a group. Once again, pandas to the rescue. We can instruct forward fill to fill by a group if we first group our data by year and jurisdiction. Now remember from last week, we can aggregate data using the group by function. We've already indexed our data frame, and our indexes can be referred to by levels. The first part of the index, our year, is level 0, and our jurisdiction is level 1. So we can say to group by, split our data into groups based on the jurisdiction. Then, once we've grouped our data by jurisdiction, forward fill by jurisdiction. Let's try that. So we're going to say joined is equal to joined dot group by, level equals 1 to say we're grouping by jurisdiction, and then forward fill. Let's jump down to where the New Brunswick data got carried over to Quebec. There it is. Our $11 an hour minimum wage for 2017 New Brunswick did not get forward filled to Quebec. And we see the same thing for Alberta. The Alberta 2017 minimum wage did not get forward filled to 2009 British Columbia minimum wage. Same thing with Northwest Territories and Yukon. So what's going on here? Well, when we forward fill by group, first we're going to create a group for each jurisdiction. And since our jurisdiction is level 1 of our index, we can say group by level 1. We're going to split our data frame into different sub-data frames based on our jurisdiction. Then we perform the forward fill for each group, and then our filled data frame is returned to us. So in the background, this is what Pandas is doing. We get these sub-data frames for each jurisdiction, and then we run our forward fill operation. And this happens for each of our groups in our data frame. Now notice 2009 Quebec, there is no previous value in this sub-data frame. And because we split our data into multiple groups, we're going to preserve that NAN for Quebec's first minimum wage value. So how can we, say, backfill the data? Well, remember how we have a bfill function? We can use the same methodology. We can say group by our first level index and then backfill by jurisdiction. So this is all we need to do. I'm going to copy line 37, paste it underneath line 37, and change the F fill to a B fill. If I run this code, I can now backfill any of my missing data by jurisdiction. Notice how the Quebec 2009 entry is now 9.5. That's how you can forward fill and backfill by group. We will now create a regression to investigate the relationship, if any, between GDP and minimum wage. But before we can do that, we should reset our index to use default labels. Why? Well, since the year column is being used as our index column, we cannot use it in our regression analysis or perform any other manipulations on that column. If we want to use our index column as a regular column again, we need to reset the index of our data frame. When we use the reset index function, that will create brand new index labels for our data frame, and it will release our old index column so that we can use it in regressions. We can do this via the reset index function. Let's do it now. I'll come back into Spyder and I'll write the code joined equals joined.reset index. And if we take a look at our variable explorer, we can see now that year, jurisdiction, GDP, and minimum wage are columns that are available for use, and our index has been reset to the default. Now we can build our regression model. Let's come back up to the top and import statsmodels.formula.api as SMF. We'll come to the bottom and build our model. Model equals smf.ols. We're trying to predict GDP from minimum wage, and our data is our joined data frame. Do .fit, and then we'll print out model.summary. If we expand our right-hand frame and take a look, our adjusted R-squared is close to 0, and our P greater than T for the minimum wage is 0.218 or 21.8%. We have insufficient evidence to reject our null hypothesis. We've now transformed our data files so that they have the same granularity. We've joined them together, and we've investigated the relationship between GDP and minimum wage.